Russillo Show on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
Tim Legler is going to tell us a story about a guy that was drafted, and he goes, man, rookie year, this guy is awesome. The team thought the player had emotional issues, so they traded him, and then they regretted it. We got Will Cain with us the day after the NBA draft, right here on the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Baseball season rolls along. Tune in tomorrow as the Cardinals host the Pirates, presented by Firestone Tires. Coverage begins at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. I want to talk about one and dones because it was a big part of what we saw last night. A record number of freshmen, all sorts of stuff, and I think people generally don't like that. I've never understood, Will, why whenever the one and done thing is kind of talked about, or whenever it's the NBA, I'll hear people say, the NBA, one and done's ruined that game. Where are the fundamentals? Follow your shot. Where's the box out? I go, you probably just don't like the NBA anyway. Right? You probably don't like it anyway, because when I look at all the stars, they're almost all one and dones, a few two and ones, maybe a couple three and dones, and that's a guy like Steph or a Klay Thompson. But for the most part, it's the one and dones, and those one and dones wouldn't even go to college if they could come straight out of high school back when LeBron was doing it. So the best players are the guys leaving the earliest. But I don't know if obsession's the right word, but the concern is maybe the better way to say it. The concern for a stranger's education. Like, why would you, if you liked basketball, why would you say that the one and done has ruined the game when it hasn't? And why would you care? I understand that education is a great thing. If I ever have kids, I will care about their education. It is likely that my kids will not be potential lottery picks. So I will be in the pool with the common people going, you're going to need your education and you're going to need it as soon as you can possibly get it. And that's going to be the most important thing. That's not what we saw from last night. Basketball is the most important thing to the group that was drafted, and yet I'll constantly hear this concern about, oh, that's too bad that they're leaving school. Is it because of education? Is it because of selfishness with college basketball? Is it because we actually think it's ruining the game? I think it's a thing that is repeated all the time and sounds like a really intelligent take, and I know I'm always guilty of, no, this is why everybody's wrong, but I do think here that everyone is wrong when they talk about one and dones.
Well, okay.
Lot there, I know.
No. But yeah, let's attack this from both sides. Here's the thing. You know the ink blot test, right? Rorschach test. And the point of that is that you put something abstract on a piece of paper and people will see in it what they want to see, right? Doesn't matter what it actually is because it's nothing. But you want to see a butterfly, you'll see a butterfly. You want to see an X-rated image because that's where your brain always is, you'll see the X-rated image. I think the one and done in a similar fashion is a rule that everyone can pour all of their hatred of something else into. It's not really about that rule, because the rule is a really bad compromise that nobody likes. So back to your point, if you don't like the NBA, you're gonna hate the one and done because it ruined college basketball, right? And the truth is, I hear people, the reason they hate the NBA is like, the guys, they don't care. Yeah, they're not passionate about it the way the kids in college are. Kids in college, that's where they're playing for love of the game. That's what you hear. So does one and done solve that for anybody that loves college basketball? No. It does. 1 year of these guys, no one loves that from that side of the equation. And from the other side of the equation, which is where I'm on, that I just find the requirement that someone give away their talents at a specified and non-negotiated price.
So now we're talking labor stuff here, which is a whole
it's just,
nother.
Look, by my very nature, I don't like being compelled to do things. I like being free to do what is best or worst for me, depending on my decision. And I don't like telling people of very special talents. Last night I heard on the draft coverage, I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Calipari. It was Calipari. He said, these are prodigies. These are child prodigies. These are like Mozarts, these guys. I agree. And they should be able to be paid what they want, and they shouldn't be forced to go to college for 1 year. So whichever way you come at this, it's a horrendous compromise that we can complain about.
Here's Cal, more on his process down in Lexington.
For a lot of these guys, Jay, everything has come easy until they went to college. What I would call for some of these kids a nice gap year. They're talking about one and done. It's not broken. It isn't broken. My kids finished the term. They're on lifetime scholarships. Can I recruit a little bit? They're on lifetime scholarships.
Nobody's going to stop you. I mean, even if I try, nobody's going to stop, right?
So they need that year, and a kid like Malik needed that year.
So he's talking about his guys. Cal embraced it before anybody else did. You want to sit there and pretend? I don't want to bring up healthcare right now, but like whenever I think of healthcare and people debating it, I have been in positions where I'm lucky enough now because I have it with my job. I also probably went much longer than I ever should have without it because I just couldn't afford it. When I lived in Massachusetts and they passed that thing and it's like fill out this card and send in your check and we're mandating that everybody has healthcare, and I'm like, I can't even afford this right now. I know what it's like to not have any money. I know what it's not, but I always would ask the question, well, who's paying for it, right? So now that I have it and I see people debate healthcare and it's like, nope, should be a right. I'm like, is it? Well, who's paying for it? Who's paying for it? So does it make me some awful person by asking the who's paying for it question? Because I ask it now when I have a job and I asked it before when I had no money. I asked it both times because I understood it from both sides. And when I think about the one and done part of it, I get the college people that are lifers that hate the idea of the player showing up for a year and not really being invested in the program. And De'Aaron Fox, who we had here and we loved, and we asked him on the air, off the air, and said, when did you know you were one and done? He goes, I left high school 3 days after graduation and went to Lexington planning on being in this year's lottery. Like, that was the plan. So what if I just said, okay, we can't have it high school out of the NBA, which is what it seems like both you and I would want. What if we just start looking at college differently? And for the guys that want to stay 4 years and get a degree, that's great. Nobody's knocking you for it. But let's stop thinking that that's the best path. Let's stop thinking that staying 3 years makes you this better person. Why not just treat it like a PG year? Because that's what I think you saw with Cal last night. Like, he's almost looked at college as this is a post-grad situation. And if you want to stay longer, you can do that too. And that feels toxic the same way when I asked that healthcare question, there's certain elements of that discussion that feel like, oh, well, you're just not supposed to talk about it that way. Well, what? Like, I just can't ask questions about it? I can't talk about college athletics and say, maybe you just, hey, thanks for let me use you and you used me and we're good and I'm out of here. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yes, I don't like Cal's perspective on it because he actually likes the one and done, and we know why he likes one and done, because he prospers under that scenario, right? It's not really about the kid. It's not really about if this is best for the kid. It's that he's really good in the one and done environment. Like, if we had Cal here and I attacked it from the other side, hey, Cal, these kids, they shouldn't be required to go to college. I don't know what he does. I mean, because he needs that rule. He wants that rule.
He'd probably go back to the NBA.
Right.
That'd be a really good question to ask him, and he's here enough. He'll probably be here this summer. Maybe I'm not going to be like, hey, let's make sure but that's a really good question, because what I respect about Cal is that when everybody else was pretending it was still about education and all these other things, he's like, no. Like, we're going to be a factory, and we are going to be the next step to you becoming a millionaire in the NBA. That's why he is always pointing out, we're talking about what he likes to say, over $1 billion worth of negotiated contracts from guys that have gone through Big Blue Nation.
But he's defending his position there from someone saying you should be having them for 4 years.
How about if I say this? I don't care that he's defending his position. I don't care that maybe he's not being as transparent as he needs to be, because we all know what the answer is. I like that he's just not pretending that it's school first. Like, is it wrong for me to go, hey, you know what? It isn't school first for the guys that we saw last night.
It's just honesty.
And that's okay.
Yeah, well, you appreciate it because it's honesty. We all appreciate a little honesty, even if it's hard to hear. But I just, I would love to hear Cal address this. And I love college basketball. I love college football. College athletics are great. I agree. Oftentimes they're better than the product that the professionals put out from an emotional investment perspective and entertainment perspective and so forth.
There's an attachment thing sometimes there too. Like, I like the NBA better than college basketball, but I like college football much better than I like the NFL.
But can I go against my own self-interest? Because that's the real question here. Can Cal go against his own self-interest? Can he understand that it's not right to force someone to go to school for 1 year and go, yeah, you know what, that would be a better environment? Can you go against your own self-interest, whether or not it's on that healthcare debate, whether or not it's on this debate? I just like college athletics. Yeah, I know you do, but is it right? Because in the end, as much as I like college athletics, I think a high school sophomore should be able to go to the NBA. And I don't think if you're good enough and they'll draft you, I think an 8-year-old. How about that? I'm ready to do away with the child labor laws, too. Hey, do you know about this 8-year-old? He's awesome. The Nets want him really bad. You know what? He should probably be able to cash in.
Now we're talking about philosophical stuff. Why don't we get through?
What was Cal saying last night? Somebody was talking, Billis, about junior high kids being scouted, like 8th graders. That guy right there, lottery soon. 8th grade, man.
LeBron was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, sophomore year? going into his junior year, something like that. Anyway, all right. Russillo Show, reminding you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. Tim Legler on the draft, on the Butler trade, and on a player that was traded after his rookie year. So Legs was on the team. This kid comes in, plays a rookie year, and the team says, nope, not stable. And he ended up being a sick talent. We'll tell that story next with Will Cain, the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Over, under, and
properly rated.
For the NBA draft, we have Jeff Goodman. What's going on with the Celtics? Are they still in the trade market right now for a Paul George? So we got Will Cain with us. Sarah Spain's going to help us out with what's going on in Chicago, the Jimmy Butler trade the day after. Bulls fans not happy, not surprised. The Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And now with us, we got Tim Legler. Legs, just overall, we look at the draft. The guys that we go high, we know how much we like them, but why does it work for some and doesn't work for other? Are we talking about just fit, ability, work ethic?
Why does it work? I mean, why will it work out for them?
No, why does it work for some players that we like, and then there's other players we like just as much, it's just not going to work out for them? Like, what are some of the details other than just, ability? Is it work ethic? Is it fit? Like, what are some of the reasons?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that's not talked about enough is the players, how much the player is buying in to what he's getting into. Like, he's all in. He's happy to be with that team. He's happy with the guys he's playing with, excited about the city, like all of that stuff. Because if some of those elements aren't there, they might never, ever get there. And so now a guy that's got all the talent in the world, for whatever reason, 2 years down the road, we're talking about him being a bust or finding a new home or whatever it may be, because some of those elements were not there. I like the guys that approach it like Markelle Fultz did last night, where it's just like, and I believe it, no matter who would have picked him, if he wasn't one, he was going to at least say, look, man, I'm all in here. I am so excited to be in the NBA. When you start thinking about where you want to play and you're in the top 5, I think right off the bat, I've got suspicions about where your mind is at, and that can make it turn south for a player.
You were one of the best shooters when you played. Can you tell if a guy can become a shooter that isn't today?
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of it is you got to do the background. Is this guy a gym rat? Is he a gym rat? Because if he's a gym rat, he's going to figure it out. And like, there's a couple guys in this draft, and Josh Jackson's a great example of it. I know for a fact the guy loves basketball. He's in the gym constantly. Like, you got to kick him out. He already has improved dramatically in a year because he was unable to make a college 3-point shot. Now look at him at the end of the year at Kansas. He's making corner threes, and he's making big ones. That's now going to translate to wing threes, and then he's going to extend his range out because all those other things he does really help you win. That's the knock on him. It's going to happen because the mechanics might not be great, but the desire to be great at it is there in a guy like that. So you can identify that and say, yeah, he's going to be able to figure that out. Other guys, if it's really bad, it's going to be tougher to ever translate into being a great shooter.
Who are those guys?
Because De'Aaron Fox, I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, maybe I shouldn't say that because John Wall is certainly infinitely better as a shooter than the day he got into the league when everything was predicated on his speed. But I don't even think De'Aaron Fox shoots it on that level right now. It's one of the problems for guys like those two guys. They've been at the rim their whole life. They've never been forced to learn how to shoot. Like Ben Simmons has overwhelmed everybody in the paint his whole life. Never really been forced to figure out another way to score. Let's see now if he can do that. De'Aaron Fox is going to have to do it too. Because if you don't add it, you're never going to become this transcendent type of player that maybe you have the athletic ability to become if you can't figure out a way to score from all over the court. That's the biggest challenge for those two guys.
Ryan and I were talking about this pre-show. We hear this thrown around all the time. Oh, yeah. Well, he'll learn how to shoot. But what we're hearing from you right now is, I want to know if he lives in the gym, and then if he has any semblance of mechanics before I can throw around, De'Aaron Fox, he's going to learn how to shoot. Ben Simmons, he's going to learn how to shoot.
Right, like if it's coming off your fingertips, okay, and for the most part, like there's nothing crazy in your release, you go, okay, you know what, if he just puts the time in and he's got really high-level instruction, which every team in the league now has a guy like that that's more than qualified. They didn't have shooting coaches when I played. Every team's got one now. So you got a shooting coach, and now you got a guy willing to put the time in, and his mechanics aren't horrific, where he's developed something so bad it's too late that you're ever really going to get that out of it. He's going to be okay. Like, that guy's going to figure it out. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are two great examples of that. Look at how much better they are as shooters now from when they were drafted. And that's what you hope for, for a guy like Josh Jackson. Like, can he can he put that kind of time in to make shots like a Kawhi Leonard, because defensively he can have the same impact.
Tim Legler, Will Cain, the Russillo Show. It's ESPN Radio. Give me a story when you were in the league, rookie came in, where you went, wow, immediately, and it actually worked. Or where did that story
Rasheed
go?
Rasheed Wallace, right? It's in Washington. And they gave up on him after a year because they thought he was emotionally unstable. But talent-wise, this guy walks in the gym, you're like, he's 6'11", he runs like a deer, he can shoot threes, he's one of the best low-post defenders in the league day one, and they're like, you know what, yeah, he's kind of emotional. So they trade him.
Was it bad, though? Or
so they trade him for Rod Strickland, who was a really good player, but you traded a young, elite big for an older small. Like, you typically don't do that in the league. Now, nowadays, that actually makes sense the way the league goes. But back then, it didn't, because every team had 4 or 5 big guys on their roster.
So when he was a rookie, though, did you think, oh, no, this is... Because I've always heard with Rasheed, as good as he is, and his career, is pretty good, that people will tell you he should have been even better.
Well, I will tell you the reason from my observance of him that he wasn't better, because a lot of it had to do with unselfishness. Like, he didn't really care about trying to bring that kind of attention to himself. He really just wanted to win. He had won his whole life. He was on the best high school team in the country. He went to Carolina and won. He came to Washington, and all he really wanted to do was win. It wasn't because he didn't put the work in or he didn't care. He just viewed the game differently, and he didn't really go the extra mile with that little bit of selfishness you need to make it about you, where now you can become a 20-plus point scorer. He didn't care about that stuff.
So Rasheed Wallace's problem, and the reason his career will not be looked at as the same level of other guys, is because he was too unselfish and cared about winning too much.
For a guy that talented, he was one of the most unselfish teammates I've ever had.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you.
And everybody loves him that has had him as a teammate.
Yeah, no,
he's had one of the highest approval ratings of guys I've ever
No
talked.
knock on him whatsoever in that way. I was sorry to see him go. And, and look, people could say he didn't live up to what he wanted to. He had a pretty good career. Yeah. Talent-wise, you're right. Should have been better probably.
Give me one guy last night that was taken that will make many, many teams live with regrets. So later in the draft, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, even lower, that several teams are going to go, dang, what did we miss on that?
If you go that far down, I think Dennis Smith has potential to do that. Okay? I just don't know. Look, I've heard bad things about him.
No, I fist pump because I'm a Mavs fan.
No, I hear you.
You gave me the answer I wanted.
I hear you. Good. I've heard bad things about him, and a lot of it in the last 48 hours, actually, that, some scouts that went to see him play this year, they hated his body language. Looks like he kind of could be a problem. I heard that he overslept the other day. The only guy here in New York to oversleep the media session. Missed it. Those aren't good things to hear about. But then I watch him play, and I was watching that Duke game live, and you're just going, this guy is ridiculously talented, explosive, exciting, electrifying. And Rick Carlisle's already talking about he might be starting next year. He's at that kind of talent. Maybe you go up a little bit from that, a guy that isn't getting the hype that the other guys are at the top. I think Jonathan Isaac has a chance to be great. And he went at 6'11", and does a lot of things offensively that are very rare and very special. So he might end up being, I said any one of the top 6 guys could end up being the best player in this draft 5 years from now. And I don't remember when I've gone that deep into a draft saying that.
Thanks, Lex.
Yep.
You got Tim Legler right there, here on the Russillo Show with Will Cain, ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with an Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. We're going to do a draft version of Over, Under, and
Properly Rated
right here on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Jimmy Butler heading to the T-Wolves. That's the top of next hour. Jeff Goodman on whether or not Paul George is heading out of Indiana. Kevin Pritchard, their GM, basically said this is a gut punch when Paul George said he didn't want to be here anymore. Thought he could be traded yesterday. Could he still be traded the day after or into free agency? With Will Cain, it's the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Hit us up at Russillo Show, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We're going to do a little NBA draft version of this.
Properly Rated.
Maybe some other stuff in there as well. Over, Under, and Properly Rated. Brought to you by Hum. Hum by Verizon is the technology that connects you to your car. Learn more at hum.com.
All right, guys, first one. The Celtics taking Jason Tatum over Josh Jackson.
Go ahead, Will.
Properly rated.
Properly rated.
Exact right call. If you'd taken Josh Jackson after he bails on a workout, after he sent every message to you, do not take me, that would be, what would that be? Fireable?
How nasty is that Josh Jackson thing? So if those that don't know
they were on a flight,
it,
right?
What's that?
They were on a flight.
They got up at 4 a.m. from Boston, flew to Sacramento, 6 a.m. flight, I imagine. It was Brad Stevens, Ainge, and Mike Zarin, who's the assistant GM. While they were flying to Sacramento, they were basically being told, don't bother. Jackson's not going to work out for you. They land, they spend the day there, and that's where Ainge last night said there's nothing to do in Sacramento because somebody's like, what'd you do? He's like, nothing. There's nothing to do there. So that is an agent deciding he does not want Jackson to go to Boston. I imagine it's because he feels like there's too much of a logjam of different people, whereas if Jackson goes to Phoenix, he and Booker get all the shots. I don't know. There's still Bledsoe. There's still T.J. Warren, but I understand because the agent feels like in 4 years, maybe Jackson's worth more. But that's just nasty. Like, find a way to be a jerk. Like, find a different way to do it.
Hey, why wait till they get on the plane, by the way? If you know you don't want your guy to go to Boston, why did you wait for just to ensure that they're super pissed? Like,
yeah, right.
Wait, watch this, Josh. I'm going to wait till they get on the plane. Then I'm going to tell them because that will really piss them off, and they'll never draft you.
So weird, too. It will be when the Suns play at Boston if Jackson plays. He's going to get booed like crazy just because of the workout thing. The overall deal, moving out of 1, taking a guy that I think could have still gone number 1 in Tatum.
Underrated.
There you go. Pro Ainge over here.
Next one, De'Aaron Fox's ability as a shooter.
Overrated.
Overrated.
This is what I want to say about this, Ryan, before you get in. I just want to attack this chirp that, he's going to learn how to shoot. Hey, anybody can learn how to shoot. One thing we've learned at this point is that guys can learn how to shoot. We just had one of the greatest shooters of all time sit next to us and go, no, not everybody can learn how to shoot. And I'm particularly worried about De'Aaron Fox's ability to learn how to shoot.
And that's what Legs was saying, is he doesn't know. He didn't like it. Like, you're upset. You're tired of debating people about Aaron Fox and them just saying, oh, he'll figure it out.
I just think it's become a line that somehow everybody goes, yeah, you're right. Guys don't learn how to shoot. I give you Kawhi Leonard. Oh, yeah, Kawhi figured it out. So that's a skill that everybody just acquires.
Yeah, Kawhi can't be one of the greatest improvement stories in NBA history and then also have everyone go, Kawhi learned how to shoot.
So you can.
Yeah. What? What's the problem? Some guys will. A lot. That can't. Never will. Next one.
Jonathan Isaac's potential. People think he could be the best player in the draft.
Properly rated.
I can't overrate it, but I'm not going to say that's underrated. I see somebody that could be, and that's what we all fall in love with. We fall in love with the unknown. What could it possibly be? He has all the stuff in his game where if he became a superstar, we go, why didn't we just agree on that? For whatever reason, maybe it's Florida State, maybe it's the rest of the class in front of him. But if Jonathan Isaac became a stud, we go, well, all the tools were there. And it's nuts. When you go through Isaac's offense, okay, 6'11", catch, no dribble, shoot. All right, 6'11", catch on the wing, dribble to his right, off the dribble, pull up, 15-footer. He'll get a block. He'll throw it up ahead. He'll trail the entire offense, kick it back to him, catch, no bounce, trailer 3. At 6'11", he does some of this stuff. Although some of the perimeter guys that he's described as, look, I don't love when... Hey, he's a little bit like Durant, but taller. Well,
you don't like the Giannis comparison either.
No, because I think Giannis has... I think Durant, Giannis, the reason why they're so special is the handle there. I don't think Isaac has that kind of handle from those dudes.
I'm going to be quit being apologetic, like, hey, what do I know? But Jonathan Isaac, if I'm betting who are the guys that make people regret what they did last night, it's Jonathan Isaac, it's Dennis
underrated.
Smith. It's those guys. Those are the ones that are going to make guys go, man, how did we pass on that?
Why didn't he go higher?
It's a great question, but it's really just because Tatum's a little more polished. Jackson's probably a little more polished, and everybody's so in love with these scoring guards now. Like, if you don't have a scoring guard, like, what are we doing?
But on the other hand, I feel like you know what you're saying.
7 years ago, Isaac goes 1, even though he's he's a new kind of big.
People, I get what you're saying. There's a copycat thing, like, oh, I need a scoring guard. I need a Russell Westbrook. I need a James Harden because that's what I see on
Lillard,
TV.
Curry,
but don't you think Jonathan Isaac is...
Kyrie.
Don't you think at 6'11", with athleticism. Jonathan Isaac there's a trend and there's a copycatness to Giannis and Kevin Durant that Jonathan Isaac is benefiting from as well.
Yeah, but I still don't think he's not the ball handler those guys are. And I got to tell you, Florida State, when it looks really good, it looks really good. And when it doesn't, it also doesn't look very good. So maybe that's why he doesn't go number one. So, Rudy, one more.
All right, next one. This Will Cain tweet from earlier today.
Uh-oh.
Quote, with Dennis Smith Jr., I think the Mavs fans, for the first time, can finally see beyond the Dirk horizon.
Overrated.
No. Oh, my God. I feel so good about that tweet. Go ahead. Go get it.
Never deleting it.
Underrated.
Exactly. That's an underrated tweet.
What are you saying in it?
Well, just be clear. Yeah, that's why. You can put whatever you want in there. I'm not saying Dennis Smith Jr. is the next Dirk in different positions. I'm not saying he's going to mean to the Mavericks what Dirk has meant to the Mavericks. I'm just saying that for 18 years now, Dirk has carried that franchise. Dirk has been the centerpiece, the center of gravity of that franchise. And for the first time, I think there is somebody in-house that you can say, once Dirk's gone, that guy could be the center of the franchise.
We have one more?
We do.
Would you want me to follow up on that?
I just want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong.
That's a tough one, man. We're talking about the greatest player in the history of that franchise.
This is
Orlando Blackman.
Where Will Cain First Take comes in. I didn't say he's Dirk Nowitzki.
You know what I've noticed with you guys on First Take? Is that when you say something and then you're called out on it, then you say, well, that's not really what I said.
Well, you do want to be held to what you say. I think you're taking a shot at Stephen A.
The Porzingis thing, him saying to you, I had no problem with Porzingis pick. I just had a problem that it wasn't part of the plan.
I threw video clips at him. Hey, man, you weren't in on Porzingis.
Boy, if that's neutral, what the hell is critical?
Somebody tweeted me today, Stephen A., if you're listening, somebody tweeted me today, you specifically said they should have taken Justice Winslow.
Real quick, guys getting personalized suits in the draft.
Overrated.
I know a lot of messages there, but it's like, hey, can you take your jacket off? Can you show us the lining? And the thing is, you don't ever really get to see it again. Kind of this weird deal. And I know some of them are very specific, emotional subjects, so I'm not being insensitive to it, but it's, it's like getting a tattoo on the inside of your flesh.
I think he's talking to you, Sir Rudy.
No, I'm saying on the inside.
Oh, you didn't mean like
yeah. Do you see what I mean?
The inner arm.
Yeah, right. Like DNA. Where are your tattoos? On the inside. Russillo Show, reminding you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone or your ESPN app or Apple Podcast. This glare on this producer screen is getting worse, and I said cold status yesterday instead of gold status, which I probably should figure out at this stage that it's going to be a gold status thing, because there wouldn't be a lot of companies would be like, and make sure you achieve new cold status by logging on. Will Cain has no idea what I'm going to ask him. He's going to be uncomfortable. He may not even like it, but we're doing it anyway. It's ESPN Radio. Remember Jeff Goodman. He'll be with us. Latest on these Celtics rumors, trying to stay in this for Paul George after last night's draft. And the biggest move, Jimmy Butler. We got Will Cain with us on the Russillo Show today. There are some stories you just have to hear to believe. Introducing 30 for 30 podcast. All new stories from the producers of the acclaimed 30 for 30 series. These original high-quality sports stories are like the acclaimed 30 for 30 documentaries that you love, but created exclusively for audio. And beginning June 27th, you can hear a new story every week. Subscribe now to 30 for 30 podcast and listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. These are going to be awesome. There's one that we were already kicking around the other day on one of them that came out. They're just, if you like all those long form, serial, S-Town was awesome. We're going to be doing this kind of stuff with sports and telling the backstories to all the stuff we have. So
just finished S-Town. Just did.
How good?
Really good. Really good.
People, I don't know if we can do this. Can we do?
No, you can't do NPR. Nobody wants NPR talk.
All right.
Let's just lay that down. NPR talk, it's not good.
S-Town's a great podcast. Check it out. Okay.
No spoilers.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is you don't want to do the spoiler and start talking about it, but my gosh, what a little tale they tell. When I watch you work,
here we go,
I see something different. Everybody has their routine, right? I like to get away from it all. It's not because I don't like people. I just like to go.
When you go close your door, I've noticed that move.
Yeah, I just want to go in there and decompress, especially today. I was like, man, here again. But I think you need to treat the radio thing, well, maybe it's great. I think you treat it the same as you do First Take, and when I see you prepping for First Take, I feel like it's watching a night lace up his suit of armor. And I see you with a legal pad off to the side, and I've walked by you when you were about to go on. I'd be like, "What are you guys doing today?" I'd be like, "Oh," I go, "Well, yeah, I wonder if he might do this." Meeting Stephen A. or Max. You say, "Oh, yeah, man, but that's a good idea. You could get me on that." I don't like
this already. So
I'm telling you, I'm impressed.
No, you're not. You're giving me advice. You said when you do radio, just my ears work. Like you said, your premise to start, and this is the hole you got to dig out of to make this next 5 minutes work. Yeah. Is you started with, here's what I think you got to do differently.
No, I guess I shouldn't have said it that way. I think what I really want to ask you about is, do you all on First Take feel like you are going to war each day when you are on that set? Because that's kind of what the prep feels like. And I think when I saw you prepping for today's show, I'm like, I'm not coming after you on Jimmy Butler. We may disagree on some stuff, but I think you try to come up with counters to anything I may bring up with the Jimmy Butler, and that's not what I'm here to do to you, man.
First of all, that's demonstrably false, and if you lie to me continuously, our relationship will be bad, because you buzzsawed me yesterday on Porzingis, and never will I ever think again, hey, Russillo Show, it's a fun hangout. Let's see where the conversation goes. I walked into an ambush, and then the worst part of it is, the ambush was this. You probably, I would guess, starting at about 10:45 a.m., go, I'm going to destroy Will Cain on Kristaps Porzingis and Phil Jackson. I'm going to do it, and I've got 3 hours to prep it. And I didn't know it was going to happen. And then I walk into the show. By the way, it didn't come up in the meeting. And then I walk into the show. You've got the pedal to the metal and just destroy me on Phil Jackson, which, by the way, let's be honest, wasn't real hard for you to do.
I love that. I love the second day admission. So all day I'm married to it. Every angle, every
still don't
sentence.
think I'm wrong.
Right,
I just know I'm on a shaky ground on this. And then here's the real cherry on top on this whole damn thing. Is your audience then goes on to destroy me for being Mr. First Take on your show.
Right.
Okay. So first of all, you're a liar. Okay. Second, the only correlation between my prep for First Take and Russillo is that I use a legal pad. That's it.
All right, I've noticed the legal pad. Okay, so let's forget about how it plays out here, because I actually think listeners, viewers would like to know when you go out, when it's a little willpower, is there something that happens? Like, are you already trying to think? I believe you are so smart that you are thinking, what will I say? What will the counter to that be? And I already want to have my defense set up when you change your strategy.
All right, well, I can't speak for the other two guys, and they probably don't do this, and that would explain the results. But
whoa!
Yeah, I do. I think, here's what I think. I'm going to outline my points. Oh, what will they say in response? What are the holes in my argument? What are the rebuttals? And then, look, I heard Jen Latta, or was it Molly, I don't know, one of them called Stephen A. the ultimate counterpuncher. Look, I think in counterpunches, 100%. Like, let's be clear. I'll tell that. Listen, Skip Bayless was a puncher. He came out and said, this is what I think, and the further out it was, the bigger it was. I don't necessarily think that way. I think this is what I think. Now, what's Ryan going to say? What's Stephen A. going to say? And my second punch will be my hardest punch. Like, I do think about what will you say, and how am I going to completely and utterly destroy that point? Yes, I do that. Not on your show. When you saw me today on Jimmy Butler, I'm like, let me just write down the mechanics of this trade. And wait a minute, Zach LaVine, restricted free agent?
Laurie, marketing? Like, what do you think Russillo's going to say about marketing?
I really honestly don't do that with you. 100%. Well, we don't debate, except when you don't tell me and destroy me in 30 seconds because I don't know how to debate.
Should we do a debate? I've just never quite understood when guys started keeping score. Like, I thought Around the Horn was the show where they kept track of stuff. But when you guys go on First Take, and then guys will be like, never lost. Like, wait a minute.
That is.
Like, huh?
That's LeVar Ball WWE talk.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Never lost a debate. Or you couldn't come out there. I remember when I went on it like 6 years ago, they go, hey, just be careful. Like, is somebody going to beat me up? Well, or are we going to talk Phillies?
But the difference...
What are you doing?
The difference,
do you fight on the show?
The difference, honestly, is you got to be able to come back. You can't be like, hey, here's what I think, and somebody goes, well, you're wrong because X, Y, Z, and you go, well, still think it.
I was so good I got banned. That's undefeated. Never lost.
1-0.
Jimmy Butler. You should be bummed out, Bulls fans, but it's kind of the way it works. It's ESPN Radio.